1 Corinthians 7. Now concerning the things about which you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. But because of much immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Let the husband fulfill his obligation to his wife, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have the rights to her own body, but the husband. Likewise also the husband does not have rights to his own body, but to the wife. Do not deprive one another except by mutual consent for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again, so that Satan doesn't tempt you because of your lack of self-control. But this I say as a concession, not as a command, yet I wish that all men were like me. However, each man has his own gift from God, one in this way and another in that. But I say to the unmarried and to the widows, that it is good for them to remain as I am. But if they do not have self-control, then let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with desire. But to the married I command, not I, but the Lord. A wife is not to be separated from her husband, but if she gets separated, let her remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband, and the husband is not to divorce his wife. But to the rest I say, I, not the Lord. If any brother has a wife who is not a believer, and she agrees to live with him, he must not divorce her. And if any woman who has a husband who is not a believer, and he agrees to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is made holy through the wife, and the unbelieving wife is made holy through her husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but now they are holy. But if any unbeliever separates, let him be separated. The brother or sister is not bound in such cases, but God has called you to shalom. For how do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband, or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? Only as the Lord has assigned each one, as God has called to each, let him walk in this way. I give this rule in all of Messiah's communities. Was anyone called when he already has been circumcised? Let him make himself uncircumcised. Has anyone called while uncircumcised? Let him not allow himself to be circumcised. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing. But each one remain in what is calling in which he was called. Were you called to be a slave? Don't let that bother you, but if indeed you can become free, make the most of the opportunity. For the one who was called in the Lord is the one who was called, while the free in Messiah is slave. Is Messiah's slave. You were bought with a price. Do not become slaves of men. Brothers and sisters, let each one, in whatever way he was called, remain that way with God. Now concerning virgins, I have no command from the Lord, but I give an opinion as one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. I think, then, because of the present distress, that it is good for a man to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Don't seek a divorce. Are you free from a wife? Don't seek a wife. But if you marry, you have not sinned. And if a virgin marries, she has not sinned. Yet such people will have trouble in this fleshly life, and I'm trying to spare you. But this I say, brothers and sisters, the time is short. From now on, those who have wives should be as though they had none, and those who weep as though not weeping, and those who rejoice as though not rejoicing, and those who buy as though not possessing, and those who use the world as though not using it to the fullest. For the present form of this world is passing away. But I want you to be free from cares. An unmarried man cares about the things of the Lord, and how he may please the Lord. But the married man cares about the things of the world, and how he may please his wife. And he is divided. The unmarried woman, as well as the virgin, cares about the things of the Lord, so that she may be holy, both in body and in spirit. But the married woman cares about the things of the world, how she may please her husband. Now I say this for your own benefit, not to put a restraint on you, but to promote proper and constant service to the Lord without distraction. But if any man thinks that he is behaving inappropriately toward his virgin, if the time is ripe and it is meant to be, let him do what he decides. He does not sin. Let them marry, but he who stands firm in his heart, who has no pressure, but has the power over his own will, and has determined in his own heart to keep her a virgin, he will do well. So then both he who marries the virgin does well, and he who doesn't marry her does better. A wife is bound to her husband as long as he lives, but if her husband dies, she is free to be married to anyone she wishes, only in the Lord. But in my judgment she is happier if she stays as she is, and I also think that I have the Ruach Elohim. 1 Corinthians 8. Now concerning idol sacrifices, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. If anyone thinks he knows anything, he doesn't yet know as he ought to know. But if anyone loves God, he is known by him. Therefore, concerning the eating of idol sacrifices, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and that there is no God but one. For even if there are so-called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there is one God, the Father, from whom are all things, and we exist for him, and one Lord, Yeshua the Messiah, through whom are all things, and we exist through him. But that knowledge is not in everyone. Some, so accustomed to idols up until now, eat food as an idol sacrifice, and their conscience, being weak, is defiled. But food will not bring us before God. We are no worse off if we do not eat, and no better off if we do eat. But watch out that this freedom of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to you, the weak. For suppose someone sees you who have this knowledge, dining in an idol's temple. If his conscience is weak, won't he be emboldened to eat idol sacrifices? For the one who is weak is destroyed by your knowledge, the brother for whom Messiah died. In this way, when you sin against the brothers and sisters, and wound their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Messiah. For this reason, if food causes my brother to stumble, I will never eat meat again, so that I do not cause my brother to stumble. 1 Corinthians 9. Am I not free? Am I not an emissary? Have I not seen Yeshua our Lord? Are you not my work in the Lord? If to others I am not emissary, at least I am to you, for you are the seal of my office of emissary in the Lord. My defense to those who examine me is this: don't we have the right to food and drink? Don't we have the right to take along a believing wife, so that the other emissaries in the Lord's brothers in Kepha? Or is it only Barnabas and I who have no right to work? What soldier ever serves at his own expense? Who plants a vineyard and does not eat its fruit? Or who tends to the flock and does not drink its milk? I don't say these things merely as a man, do I? But Torah also says these things. For it is written in the Torah of Moses, you shall not muzzle an ox while it's threshing. It is the oxen that concern God, or he is speaking entirely for our sake. Or is he speaking entirely for our sake? Yes, it was written for our sake, because the one plowing ought to plow in the hope of the one threshing, in the hope of a share in the crop. If we sowed spiritual things into you, is it too much if we reap material things from you? If others have a share in this claim over you, shouldn't we even more? Nevertheless, we did not use this right, but we did put up with all things, that we caused no hindrance to the good news of Messiah. Don't you know that those who perform in the holy service eat from the temple, and those who wait on the altar receive a share at the altar? So also the Lord ordered those who proclaim the good news to get their living from the good news. But I have used none of these things, and I am not writing these things that it will happen this way in my case. For I would rather die than let anyone deprive me of my reason to boast. For if I proclaim the good news, I have no reason to boast, for pressure is put on me, and woe to me if I don't proclaim the good news. For if I do this of my own will, I have a reward, but not of my own will I have been entrusted with a commission. What then is my reward? That when I preach I may present the good news free of charge, not making use of my right in the good news. For though I am free from all men, I have made myself a slave to all, so that I might win over more of them. To the Jewish people I identified as a Jew, so that I might win over the Jewish people. To those under Torah I became like one under Torah, though not myself being under Torah, so that I might win over those under Torah. To those outside Torah, like one outside Torah, though not being outside God's Torah, but in Messiah's Torah, so that I might win over those outside Torah. To the weak I became weak, so that I might win over the weak. I have become all things to all men, so that by all means possible I might save some. I do it all for the sake of the good news, that I might be a fellow partaker of it. Don't you know that in a stadium the runners all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you might win. Every competitor exercises self-control in all respects. They do it to receive a perishable crown, but we do it to receive an imperishable crown. So I run in this way, not aimlessly, so I box in the way, not beating the air, rather I punish my body and bring it into submission, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified.